you think that the harder you work, the better you're getting.
Makes sense.
But in science, what we know is that the harder you work, the harder you must rest so that you can get better. You don't get better from the hard work. You get better from the positioning of rest so that your body can heal.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Aspire Higher with
Charles
and Yvana, which is me, Bailey. We are so encouraged by all of your love and your support. We thank you for your comments, but we need you to continually do this for us. Like, subscribe, and share our podcast. We are here for you. We want to add value to your life. We want to add momentum to your life. We want to add life to your life.
Come on
So
now.
please, please, please make sure that you subscribe to our podcast. It does help, and it does help with our support. So thank you so much, and let's get right into it. Today, super excited about that.
I am
because
too.
We are
We've been
going
waiting
to
to talk
talk
about this.
about one of the keys to success. We talk about potential. We talk about purpose. We talk about growing. A lot of people also, they'll start thinking about how they can increase force, how they can increase revenue.
Which we talked about last time.
We did.
Right.
And definitely check out that episode. That was so good. We discussed Force is King right out of our book, The Flight of Your Life, The Power of Propulsion. It is a guide that will transform your life.
It's
no joke.
no joke.
Our clients have testimonials of breakthrough, of radical change, of transformation, how to get themselves out of their mind, their own selves, and they blossom so beautifully. So thank you for those that have already gotten the book. And if you haven't yet, please go get it. It's available everywhere books are sold. Everywhere. Amazon, yes. Barnes & Noble's up, So keep getting our book. But with today, we're going to discuss this. If you have force, if you have power, if you have a grind, hustle mentality, the secret to success for them all is recovery. Recovery. I feel like this isn't really well talked about.
No,
so we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we are.
And we're going to talk about the queen.
That's right.
Which, it's not me. We're not talking about that.
Now you are. Now you're the queen of my heart now.
I appreciate it. And I know who I am. That's the good part.
That's right.
But we're going to talk about how recovery is queen. I know this well. I adopt recovery as my best friend. You hear me?
Man.
Recovery is one of the most valuable assets of life.
Yeah.
Things were built in days, and then there was rest. There is a sequence and a pattern to our existence.
Come on, girl.
That is undermined, undervalued, and kind of overlooked. And we're not going to do that today. We're going to go right into the steps, the protocol, the principle, the love, the power of rest and recovery.
Rest. My gosh. Wow, what a great... First of all, girl, you sound like you do this professionally. Are you a professional speaker?
I think so.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you should be traveling all around the United States and the world for that matter. Oh,
help me, guys.
Oh, you do.
Keep
well,
going.
You're right. My gosh, you set this whole show up. And that is the whole show, guys. We want to tell you so much how much we appreciate you.
2-minute show. All right, go ahead.
Well, it's funny. You said something right at the opening.
Yeah.
The mentality, the hustle culture.
Yes.
You would think that this fad, and I don't want to...
It's a trend.
Yeah, it's a trend because it's not meant to disrespect people who believe in working hard.
Sometimes it's valuable.
You have to have sets of discipline. But the problem I'm saying is what you said. We don't talk about the benefit of rest, not just rest like sleeping and naps, which people are aware of.
Correct.
But recovery. That word sounds simple enough, but it's deeper than what we give it credit for.
Correct.
In the intro, you said, it's undermined, undervalued, and I oftentimes would think it's really disrespected. And the thing about queen is, you got to remember, this queen don't play.
Thank you.
And this is an analogy that's been used, obviously hundreds of years since the game actually came about. But chess, right?
Right.
All the pieces on the board.
Right.
And even if someone doesn't even know
queen.
the first thing about chess, they know this thing,
Yes.
that the queen is the most powerful piece on the board.
Every time.
Doesn't mean that she is in charge.
Right.
It means that she has the most effective and the most freedom, liberty of freedom. And that's the point.
Yeah.
You have to treat recovery this way. Because if you cross the queen, it will cost. That's what I was. It will cost your life. And I think people don't value this enough.
Yeah, for sure.
Last time we spoke, we talked about the pushing, force,
king,
and always trying to move, right? Faster and faster.
Yeah.
But there has to be a point where you're intentionally not creating movement at all.
Right.
So that you can move with greater force when it's required.
Come on. Absolutely.
Man, I can't wait to dive even deeper into this, man.
Absolutely. Inside this book, we're going to go along with page 66. Maybe even a little bit of 67, because the value in this book, the way that we've been able to navigate entrepreneurship, business, life, sport,
education,
we have fundamental principles in this book that will help you, elevate you, propel you, and encourage you.
Come on.
So here we go. We know catchy phrases like the blessings and the stretching or other nuances that seem nice, but the truth is, when we reach beyond our capacity, no matter how much we want a thing, we will damage ourselves, something, or someone. This may have been overlooked as you read our encouragements on increasing force, potential, and power, but the secret to them all, like I said in the beginning, has been said that recovery is queen. Putting yourself under stress without conscious consideration of your physical limitations can lead to failure or forfeiture. This is why we are being certain to say this to you now. If force is king, recovery is queen. This queen does not play.
I said that.
And is not to be played with. Okay? So take her very seriously, or you will not go fast or very far for long. This concept can be applied in performance. This concept can be applied in training. This concept can be applied in business, in life, in the pursuit of happiness.
Come on.
Bars. Was that a bar?
No.
Sometimes I think I'm a rapper. Like, I'm a lyricist.
Not a rapper.
No?
She's probably a
I can rap
rapper.
and I could sing, but I won't. So anyway,
she
with that being...
she can sing for real.
But with that being said, the concept of a work hard, rest harder philosophy is true.
That's what we're trying to talk about.
Right. But I have been in rooms where rest was never talked about.
Man.
Hire this. Make sure you have this. Make sure you
and
scale.
Everybody in the room needed rest.
Burnt the heck out. You hear me? Eyeballs looking bloodshot. And the thing about it is that I know rest personally. I know her name. I know what she sounds like. I know what she looks like.
That's true.
Because I took the time in my own life to pause.
Yes.
Reset. And my pivot didn't look like a pivot strategy of, okay, go into the next lane.
Yes.
It was a pivot of stop. A pivot that pointed me in the direction of meditation and worship. And with that, I remember very personally that it took me a year plus to recover emotionally from a situation where I pushed all the way since the third grade. I'd pushed for a dream, and it didn't work out in my favor no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried. And when it left me devastated, I was forced. It felt like the force within me that was generating something felt like it was time to rest. And I remember being so upset. How are you going to tell me? Like, I like to hustle. I like to grind. I like to be in charge of my actions. Like, get me back on the track. Get me back in the workroom. Let's go. Let's generate success. But the most successful time I've ever had in my life was when I rested.
Man. Just don't even say anything for a second. Just let that one rest.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
No, the most success you found in your life was when you had to rest.
Yeah. Isn't that deep?
How powerful this queen is.
And it's like, imagine illustratively, like the queen of chess coming into your space and saying to you, you are tired. You are functioning out of burnout. You need time to grieve. You need time to heal. You need time to pause, and don't pick anything else up. And don't be afraid if nothing else comes to you while you're in my rest.
Man, girl, let me tell you something. Anybody watching or listening right now has probably pulled off of the side of the road, probably walked out of the meeting that they were supposed to be paying attention in.
Yep.
If they're in a conference, they just said, forget that. I'm going to go ahead and go to the restroom and watch this episode. Whatever she's about to say, whatever they're about to say, I think I need to hear this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, girl, you talk,
That's
talking great.
It's deep.
Oh my gosh.
And it's only deep because I'm drawing out of my own well that has been there, that has done that respects rest and recovery.
Yeah.
And we had an athlete. Let's talk about our professional
Man,
athletes.
that's funny. That made me think about that. That's perfect timing. Because I literally was feeling that. And I remember, so, listeners, of course, audience listeners, that we train professional athletes as well as entrepreneurs and leaders in business and sport. And we deal with this often. But this one particular case, I had an athlete, she wouldn't mind me sharing this because we talk about this often, is she was with another coach. She was a professional CrossFit athlete. And she was one of the best in the world in her age category. But she was with a coach that was all push year round. Year round, you need to be at the highest level, even when they weren't in season. Which anyone who knows anything about sport and anyone who knows anything about producing anything in professional realms is you can't always be 100%.
Impossible.
Because you are draining from a bank that oftentimes doesn't get deposited into.
That's right.
So for her, one of the most important things that she had to understand and recognize with me is I told her, if you make this move, because she was burned out. I mean, numbers started suffering. She was getting injuries. Every single season after her peak season, she was injured. And injured to the point where she had to have surgery. Because it was this coach's mindset to make her believe that it was work hard only, work hard only, work hard. We have a mentor, shout out to Melvin Pillay. That's our boy, Melvin. He was the senior vice president, I think it was, for Zig Ziglar International. He's an international speaker, great individual, servant of the Lord, powerful man. But he always reminds us in our conversations that the curse of hard work has been broken in your life. Now, some people hearing that, just like it was for us, they're going, what are you talking about? And how does this apply to this athlete?
Exactly.
Just bear with me because I'm a storyteller. The point I'm making is that you think that the harder you work, the better you're getting.
Makes sense.
But in science, what we know is that the harder you work, the harder you must rest so that you can get better. You don't get better from the hard work. You get better from the positioning of rest so that your body can heal and adapt from the hard work. So that when you return to the hard work, it is easier because your body has mastered the work.
It sounds so simple. It's a simple equation, but it really does make that whole notion very complex. Because it goes against cultural norms. It goes against what we're taught. It goes against everything. And one of the biggest things that I've realized in the process of this all in recovery is that let's say you coach with me, one of the first things, whether it be fitness coaching, life coaching, performance coaching, confidence, you are going to go through a detox.
Absolutely.
You're going to go through a season of decompression. And it is important for me to do that first because you are coming to me with every and everything. Every and everything.
Well, listen, it's all the same because
everything.
We get in their business. We don't.
Seriously.
It's every
but you're
and
coming
everything.
to me with a mountain, right? That you want me to remove out of your life. But for me, we've got to take it step by step. There is protocol and respect for principle. So with that, when you start to understand that, okay, what I need help with has to involve systematic approaches. When you look at rest and when you look at detox, it purges out of you,
Yes.
the things that you've been holding onto.
Mm-hmm.
Detoxes, all my nutritionists, my health gurus,
Yeah, sure.
everybody out there, and even those that are not that, but wanting to aspire to be more
Right.
healthy, you understand detoxing
Mm-hmm.
has withdrawals.
Man, it is tough.
Detoxing hurts,
Yes,
okay?
it is.
And it hurts.
It's nerve-wracking.
It does mess with the nerves. It messes with a lot.
Yeah.
Central nervous system. And that's
Sure.
another thing I'm going to talk about.
Sure, we will.
Central nervous system overload is real.
It's real.
Okay. And that's why a lot of people can't recover
Because they're in constant fight or flight.
That's it. Cortisol levels are high,
High.
right? We're talking scientific terms,
Yes.
but anatomical terms as well.
Yes.
For the body, you have to understand that this is a system.
It's a system.
This has a way of approach in it that has to be respected. And when the signs are being ignored, well, something's going to have to suffer.
Something has to
Whether
give.
it be the athlete that gets injured, whether it be the CEO that just forgets the business, just literally stops
I'm
and
done.
says, I'm done.
Yep.
Whether it be the employee that is so overwhelmed, they leave the
Yep.
job, they leave
or
their
quitting
purpose
while
and
they're in the
passion.
position. Like we talked about quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting
Yep.
happens. You're there, but you're not really there. You quit. Nobody knows you quit, but we know. But with that, I know for a fact that when you overtrain and overreach, you cannot be successful. You can't.
You just can't.
You're out of flow. You're out of the rhythmic portion of the system of recovery.
And just to add to that story
Mm-hmm.
with the athlete that we were talking about that I was working with in particular, one of the things that she was shocked to see was I told her and I showed her, I sat down and I wrote a periodized program. In fact, that's what we do with our purpose coaching.
That's right.
We have
Periodization.
purpose, periodization.
We follow a plan.
We have a system
Yes.
that we've created.
We're not guessing here. We know.
And when I tell you the system is not like anything you've experienced because
Right,
it goes
right.
from the soul level,
Yes.
the mental,
Right.
the spiritual,
Right.
and the physical.
That's right.
But there's a plan that I literally built for her from scratch and I showed her a whole year. This is
Okay.
what's going to be our guideline.
Okay.
I said, you're going to start here and it's going to feel easy to you because it's not going to be like, go,
Right.
jump off this, do a
Heavy
black flip
weights.
here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
parkour, right?
Right,
You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
It's not going to be all in your hands and
Right.
flips. We're going to go back and learn the skills
Yeah.
so that when we increase the force or the acceleration,
Right.
you're masterful.
Right.
And you can pop
Absolutely.
out reps.
Come on.
Would you believe that 6 years after her prime, this woman was in her 40s now, competing at this level, she PR'd in every category. I remember the tears in her eyes. She hadn't set a new personal best in any category for 6
I'm
years
proud of
straight.
that. Yeah. I'm so proud
Had
of that.
surgery the year prior.
Yeah.
Left
Yeah.
the coach, said, I just can't do this anymore. I'm getting
Right.
my butt kicked
Right.
by myself,
Right.
beating my own self up.
Mm-hmm.
But we also had structured
Yeah.
periods of highs
And
and lows.
come on. Structured.
Structured where I made
Intentional.
her, you can't go to the gym. You can't go exercise. You think that's your mental escape, but what's happening is you're escaping mentally
Yeah.
from the fact that you're afraid if you would stop for a moment,
Right.
you'd be by yourself.
Oof. And you know how many people are afraid to be
Come
by
on.
themselves? They're afraid of the voice of themselves.
Because of the
They're afraid,
stories.
man. They're so, I don't know, discouraged, I think is
Right.
the best word,
Right.
to actually sit with themselves and hear their own cry and their own voice speak to them. And I know in athletics, it's the same as business.
That's right.
If you feel like you're being stopped or paused, you're like, well, somebody else is going to get better.
Right. Someone else trying to take my position.
Someone's going to take my position,
Someone
or
wants to
somebody's
take
going to, come on.
And it's not real.
We can't be afraid
No.
to rest. We can't be afraid to recover, because without that key component, you cannot generate the force that you need to generate in success thereafter. You cannot. And if you do, you're at risk for further injury, at risk for further burnout,
That's right.
and at risk for further premature death within yourself.
Man.
I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. Well,
We're
that,
gonna
well
leave
you
it there.
did.
We're
You
gonna
know,
leave it
you
there.
said you weren't,
We're
but you
gonna leave it
did.
there.
I mean, you just did.
Work-life
Yeah.
balance.
And it's funny you just said that, because we're typically speaking, I know there's always a plethora of people, walks of life, but categorically speaking, they're typically the professional athletes or the leaders in business that we specifically niche to.
Right.
And then we have other people who are aspiring, right? And so some people on that aspiring level feel like, well, that sounds great, but I can't afford to do
understood,
that.
Understood.
But the problem is that's the problem.
Right.
We are always assuming what we can't afford, not respecting that we can't afford to burn out.
Come on.
We can't afford to injure our relationships.
Come on.
We can't afford. Go ahead.
There are quite a few entrepreneurs in our social network
Yes.
that have voiced the same thing.
Yes.
If I can just grind and make it until April before I go on vacation,
Yes.
I'll tell you, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. How many?
I mean, it's quite a few.
Multiple people feel the same way.
Yes.
I am feeling burnout, and the year just started.
Just started.
Because also, too, the pressure of your objectives, the
Yes.
pressure of these, all right,
New
2023, new goals, new visions.
Dream bigger. And we want
Dream
you to
bigger while
dream.
sometimes you didn't even finish the
Yes,
dream from
and
2022.
that's what we're trying to say.
Why are you going to dream bigger when you can't even finish?
Yeah, finish.
Finish.
And then build
Finish
bigger.
strong.
It's different.
And rest harder.
Yeah.
Finish
yeah.
strong, rest harder. They're simple words, but they mean so much. And they carry so much life in them, you know? And it's okay to pause.
Yeah.
Press pause.
Just
the
for a
show
little
still
bit.
goes on, right? It's still built. Just press pause in this one little insert of your life.
But that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
And it's not as big as people want to make it.
Right,
That was one of
right,
the
for
greatest
sure.
lessons I would honestly say you taught me. And I think we've talked about this, but I mean, you're probably shocked because I brought it back up on the air. But no, you teach me a lot. And I always tell people one of my greatest teachers is my wife. I listen. I think men, if you're listening, that's one of the most important assets you have in your life.
Thanks.
You can be the king of your home, but listen to the queen, right? Because she's the prophetess of the home. It doesn't mean that she has to tell you what to do or give you the direction, but you need to be taking in what she's saying so that you can make your next step wisely. All right? Because every decision you make,
Tip my hat on.
she's thinking about both of you. That's just my tool, for the day. But little things that people can do. For instance, when we used to work in the corporate structure, we often tell people, and we teach people this now, about blue light spectrum.
Oh.
Now this is going to sound specific to you, but for those of you who work in an office space, those lights are actually draining you.
Yep.
They're creating in your brain this trick. That's literally what blue light spectrum does, that there's more sunlight than what actually is. So your body has been tricked to produce more because of the lights.
Right, that's very true.
So what we would do is we would set apart 5 to 10 minutes in the day where we go into a dark room or go sit in the car or drive away from the office building
That's right.
and then come back.
It was such a beautiful reset.
You may not
We were
have-
so much more productive doing
And that's
that.
what people don't realize.
Right.
In fact, other countries, now I know you got to say something, but this is just funny because this popped in my mind. So we have a friend, shout out to Fabian Florent, great friend of ours. We were traveling, we saw him over in Europe. Anyway, they have the siestas where they literally have hours
All
in the
over the
middle of
countries.
the day where
Designated.
no one works. America's one of the
Come on,
most overworked countries,
Yes.
period.
Yeah.
But they are just as productive.
Right.
Because they go home, they spend time with their family,
Come on.
they take a full nap,
Eating.
they exercise, they get a shower, they go back to work for another 4 hours. And they can produce almost near 100% of the effort they gave in the first 4 hours.
It says something, no?
Says a lot.
Recovery is queen.
Choose.
That says enough.
Take time in your day. All right, that was just my tidbit
I love
for
it.
today.
I love it.
But go ahead, continue on.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I try to avoid unnecessary stress. So if it is limiting my usage, and I'll say if it is limiting my usage on apps, on phones, on different platforms, or anything that generates more energy that I can't control, I try to limit it. And I try to get my clients to do the same within respect of what they need in their coaching. And there are a lot of times where we can be stressed by unforeseen circumstances, right? Children, medical bills.
Yeah, I mean, things.
Grief, like just stress that you really can't control. However, when you take the time, because those are it's crazy because those are outer things.
Yeah, it's always
that
external.
invade our internal world.
Right, which means we need to have healthier boundaries.
Boundaries.
That's a portion of rest.
Boundaries. How is that a portion of rest?
Because some of our peace is disturbed because we're letting too many external factors in. Yeah, sip that tea on that one. Y'all can't see her if you're listening, but if you're watching, you saw her take that gulp of that tea. Because it's true.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've had to learn to do in our lives, we're young, but we learned early, is we can't let everything on the outside in.
Come on.
And that includes family.
Come on.
That includes friends.
Yep.
That includes the pressure of what other people are doing. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned is it's not you against the world. It's you versus you. And here's the kicker. It's really just you versus the you yesterday.
Come on.
So quit looking so far.
Yeah.
I used to struggle with this. I'll never forget when I was young, because I know people are like, you're still young. I look great. I'm almost 40. I look fantastic. Thank you, Lord. All right. But seriously, I was talking with a pastor And this was probably, I was early 20s.
Right.
And I was so stressed thinking about the next level because I had already fashioned myself, having come from athletics.
Yeah.
Now I'm no longer competing.
Yes.
I had injured myself. Now I'm in the
Yes.
corporate world. Okay, I want to get to this. I want to do this. And I remember this guy, and I almost felt disrespected, but he wasn't disrespectful. And a lot of times people feel disrespected because some people are truthful to them.
Okay.
That's not disrespect. That's the highest form of respect. But what he said was, Charles, stop. He's like, do you listen to yourself? This is him saying this as a pastor. I'm like, bro, you're a pastor. Just chill with that. But he was like, no, seriously, do you listen to yourself? I was like, what? What's the problem? I was like, I'm talking to you. You asked me what was on my mind.
Right.
He's like, the problem is you're living so far in the future that you can't even focus on this moment.
Come on.
Have you ever just tried to live in today?
And it was so hard too, because sometimes in partnerships, relationships, one can be that way and then the other could be the other way.
And that's
for me,
too.
I'm just living life and taking advantage of the moment, carpe diem, you know? I couldn't understand it. I'm like, why are you looking for the future?
Yeah,
like it didn't
5
make
years,
sense.
10 years ahead.
What? It's not gonna even come.
Yeah.
Like just relax, you know?
Yeah.
But there's so many people in that same sphere of
Absolutely.
looking for the future goal, trying to attain things in the future that you didn't respect your present state.
Your present state.
Yeah.
And that will aid you in rest.
Come on.
Because your
Every
mind isn't stirring on all the things that aren't even in existence.
Yes.
But they're stirring on, well, what can I create today?
Right.
That will give you rest.
That's right.
Even if you can't take a vacation.
That's right.
Maybe you need a vacation from your own thinking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, she flashed her eyelashes at me.
Thank you. And you know what? I want you to talk about the push and pull relationship.
Yeah, so in last
Tell people
time
what that
we
means.
spoke, we talked about force and being king, right?
Yes.
But there is a relationship that we know in science, push and pull relationships. And I kind of described it in the last episode. If you hadn't seen the episode, please go back, listen to Force is King, because that will make this even more impactful to you as to understanding why rest and recovery is queen. But as one muscle pulls or contracts, the other side, the muscle that is counteracting, has to stretch.
Okay.
That is a push and pull relationship.
Right.
When someone pulls their hamstring,
Right.
it's typically because their quadriceps are so strong and the hamstring isn't able to adapt or adjust fast enough and is trying to contract at the same time.
Right.
So the strongest muscle group wins
Right.
and strains the weaker.
Right.
You see this in relationships when people are unequally yoked with someone who's not on the same level.
Right.
You see this in friendships and business relationships.
Yeah.
You see this in sport, right? With
Right,
injury, and you see
right.
this in all types of categories. But you have to respect both. The way that you respect both is by giving time to both. So I'll never forget, going back to the example we led with earlier, and also with that hustle mentality and hustle culture and work hard all the time, we said at the very top of this episode, work hard, rest harder.
That's right.
Most people miss that.
Right.
They hear work hard, rest hard, but they
Right.
don't rest at all.
Come on.
We said harder.
Right.
If you go hard pushing for what you want, or if you go hard training, even if you're an athlete, you have to recover. That is the opposite
Every time. That's right.
of the push.
Right.
So I remember when I was training too as an athlete, I used to be afraid, just like we talked about, that if I wasn't training, I wasn't getting better.
Right.
But my coach helped me. I had some of the best coaches in the world. They
Yeah.
finally got to me to understand, Bailey, when you come out here and you crush it and we do this, go home.
Yeah.
Don't do any extra reps.
Right.
You ain't got to go out here and show us. We got it. You mastered it. Go rest.
Right.
Because we need you back fresh so that we can actually add to what you've gotten.
Thank you.
So that's the point. You have to respect the pull and the push.
Right.
Don't focus so much on the push.
Right.
Pull away.
Come on. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes, a lot.
Because you can apply it in, yes, your sport,
Mm-hmm.
also business,
Yes.
also personal relationships,
right.
and also within yourself.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes.
And thank you for explaining that
Sure.
scientifically.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know if people know what that means.
Yes.
They don't know and understand how even the allegory with the body,
Yes.
it actually relates to the relational.
Yeah.
So that was brilliant.
I can
Thank you.
give one more example.
go ahead.
I just feel like giving it because
Go
it's funny, and
Yeah,
I know
go
that
ahead.
somebody's listeners going to understand that. It's just like the guy you see in the gym that does all the bench press all the time.
Yeah.
But he doesn't
Annoying.
do any rows,
Yeah.
right? So his chest is
Tight
big
chest, tight
and
pecs.
his shoulders are rounded.
Yep.
And every time he walks around, he thinks he's swole, but
Right.
really he's stuck
Right.
because these muscles are so
Pulling and
tight
contract. That's right.
that these muscles are weak. And so he has pain that he's created because he's put too much attention on push, push, push
But doesn't he look good though?
in his
Isn't
mind.
it always about the
In his mind.
look?
in his
In
mind.
life?
I'd
Okay.
rather be healthy.
Okay.
I'd rather be functional. But anyway,
Right.
that was for someone who may have needed that, guys.
Yes. So strengthen
Work on the
posterior and
posterior.
interior.
All right. Okay. That was just for the simple. Like, I have
Yes.
to sometimes give that to myself. You know what I mean?
Okay. But what we're essentially saying is, yes, hard work does pay off, right? But smart work pays forward. That's in our book, page 68, The Flight of Your Life, The Power of Propulsion. We are reading along with Recovery is Queen.
Recovery is Queen.
In this book. So many beautiful gems. And we really want you to understand that regardless of how hard you're pushing, set a limit. Set a limit. And if you have to have app timers, if you have to shut off electronics, if you have to, it's so funny how parents and teachers will do that for kids.
Right, but not for themselves as adults.
Though. They're like, well, I've earned it. I'm older.
Man, let me tell you something.
How does that apply?
One of the worst things we can ever do is look at our position, especially when it comes to age, and then apply. It's almost like the do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
That's called being hypocritical.
Oop.
I don't care how old you are. One thing you can do is learn from people who are younger than you.
Oof.
Because sometimes
that takes humility.
The purity, and I'm not saying that they are smarter.
Right.
I'm not saying that they have more wisdom or they're educated. Sometimes they can see stuff because they're more sensitive to it at their youth.
Absolutely.
Like we always say, learn from babes. Even Jesus talked about that. So you want to enter in the kingdom?
Learn.
All the people he could have picked in the world,
he
pushed everybody else away and said this.
Come on.
Be like them.
That says something.
That's just a nugget for anyone who really needs humility. And I'm telling you, that's something that we challenge ourselves on often.
All the time.
You ain't got to be the person that made it for me to take the wisdom you got to give me.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not looking at the people that's always at the top.
Right.
Because sometimes the people that have the greatest wisdom are right next to me.
Yeah.
Or by somebody else's mindset, oh, they're beneath you. No, man.
And it's funny too, because sometimes when I'm home and not traveling, we're not speaking, our dog will come up to us and put his head on our lap. And I'm like, what's going on? But it'll trigger something within me that says, I need to rest.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
he
I'm
knows.
tired.
Our dog
I'm burnt out. And as smart as animals can feel and be in tune with humans, and there's so much, scientifically with that, but they're teaching us a lot.
They are.
If you listen.
Children
teach a lot too.
If you
just listen. And your inner self teaches you the most.
If you would just listen.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So we want to encourage you with, if you need to take a moment for yourself in your life, if you've been generating so much force and you're burnt out or feeling like you're getting there, or at the point where you feel like you need a push, because some people need a push too.
That's right.
But force is king. We talked about that already in our podcast. Don't forget to check it out and make sure you really do learn from what we're saying, because it will help empower your life. But I enjoy Recovery as Queen because we understand the benefits from it. So if you have not gotten this book already, The Flight of Your Life, The Power of Propulsion,
we can't say it enough.
Recovery is Queen. We go from page 60, 66. Make sure you learn what the principles are trying to teach you, because honestly, when it comes to rest, there's no greater secret to success than rest.
Than that. And I wanted to say one last thing, because it was the most important point. If we had to close it, I think it'd be a great place to close our thoughts. And I'll relate this from a sports analogy perspective.
Okay.
As a championship coach, I can say this honestly.
Absolutely.
Someone who's coached champions.
Yes.
As a champion myself, you are a champion yourself.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we learned and we put into practice more than anything else, every great coach knows this one thing.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how good you are, how hard you can push.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you can produce.
Right.
If you're not healthy enough to produce it when it counts. If you are constantly pushing and you are not respecting or taking time to rest, you are actively participating in your demise. It's like missing the podium, being the best in the world, because all you did was push and you didn't recover enough to be healthy when your time came. This is the one thing that all coaches in their hearts and minds are holding on to more than anything. That is the work to rest
ratio.
ratio.
Absolutely.
That is a real term we use in strength conditioning and
That's
performance.
Right. That's right.
And is one that you need to adopt if you're listening or watching right now.
Right.
Strategize. I'm working hard for X amount of weeks, X amount of days, or if it's a project I have to really commit to, fine. But take away from something else. You don't have to have everything on the table. Focus on project X, back yourself out of something else that doesn't require you. Learn to delegate, relinquish control, trust people that you have either trained or have capacity and capability to do what you could and should be doing so that you don't have to focus and give that energy. You can focus on what you're focused on.
Beautiful. And mind you, rest is not necessarily sleeping.
Come on.
Okay. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that another time. But I think this was great. Yeah, great job.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment.
Yeah, hit some comments
our podcast. Let us hear your voice. One of the greatest things is the communication between the listener and the visual audience to us. So please, we encourage you to share, like, subscribe, and make sure you comment. Help us understand how this is impacting your life. And don't forget to get the power of propulsion, which is the flight of your life.
Yeah, I like how you did that.
Look, you like that? You like that? Switch it up. Available everywhere books are sold. Thank you so much for your time, guys. And we hope that you understand the queen is recovering.